doing? They're running us around.
For this one, I want to talk about some of the concepts that I talk about a lot. I kind of want to bring them back to, where I developed these views. And one of the key ones that I think I base a lot of my thinking on is this concept of technology design, or, digital tech, like computer software, hardware, whatever. The design around those things is what I started to call the reverse deliberation, or I think inverse is more appropriate. And it all came from some research I was doing where I was attempting to read every back issue of ACM Interactions magazine. And I found this article. It's called Computers and Communication Design, Exploring the Rhetoric of HCI, that's Human Computer Interaction. And it was by Daniel Boyarsky and Richard Buchanan from 1994. And there was this quote, or this section. In the past, deliberation led to decisions about means to be employed in given circumstances to achieve given and desired ends. Just to talk about that for a second, that's, to me, like a very nice, concise definition of what design is, right? Design is you start with a purpose, something that is a very kind of solid, immutable thing. And from there, you deliberate over ways to satisfy that purpose. That's the design process, that deliberation, right? Just to continue the quote, means were deliberated, but the circumstances and ends were not subject to deliberation, right? So the end was immutable, as I said. Continuing the quote again, today, deliberation is inverted. The computer provides new means. The means are given by technological development, but the circumstances and ends of computer use are themselves the subject of deliberation in the process of product development. This is a fundamental characteristic of our time, and it profoundly influences the development of human-computer communication. So that part, that flipping around of the design process, spoken about quite positively in this piece. I'll link to it in the description. Is what kind of set me off. It was like, you can't just say that. I felt like you can't just say that and be okay with that, right? I think what happens if you're okay with that is you're letting computation, digital, software as a means overwhelm everything and just take over, right? And if you look at that through the lens of, okay, we have software companies, since commercial software was a thing, we have software companies. And what that means is we have means companies, right? It's no different to having a brick company or a timber company, right? They're providers of means for achieving ends. But software companies are empowered and encouraged and accepted as being also the ones that decide on what that material will be used for, right? Because as this quote says, and this article, explains further, we've inverted the concept of deliberation in design, or in the design process. So, Microsoft makes software, right? We accept that. But what we're saying is Microsoft makes a material, but that material is also the product, right? It's the ends. And it's up to Microsoft to deliberate over which ends they think their software should be applied to, right? And to kind of attempt to satisfy. And what this ends up being for me is an illustration of what I think it's quite strong to say this, but the more I think about it, the more it fits, that this is anti-design, right? This is the opposite of what design is. You have something that exists and you you kind of understand its strengths and weaknesses, and you just have fallen into this process of just looking around the world, finding things you can apply it to, right? That's how we do software. And it really, I mean, the reason I call it anti-design is because you're removing the deliberation of the best way to achieve something. What you're doing is you're looking for the best thing that you can achieve, rather than picking something and finding the best way to achieve that. So yeah, that's a quick summary of one of my kind of pillars of why I talk about the things I talk about.